The 5th of July, 1943, 1:20 hours. Southern face of the Kursk salient. The night smells of oil and wet grass. Engines idle low, coughing like animals trying not to be heard. Somewhere beyond the black line of trees, metal scrapes metal, tracks grinding as German tanks reposition in the darkness. A flare rises, white. Then another. The earth briefly turns silver, and for a heartbeat you see them. Tigers. They sit hulking and calm, 45 tons of armor in arrogance, their long 88mm guns angled forward like accusing fingers. Even at rest they look unstoppable. Soviet infantry press their faces into the dirt. Tank crews grip steel handles inside cramped hulls, knuckles white, breath shallow. Everyone here has heard the stories. Shots bouncing off, entire platoons erased, crews burned alive. Then the night answers back. From behind a low ridge, something moves that doesn't sound like a tank at all. The engine note is deeper, slower, like a heavy door being dragged across stone. The silhouette that crawls forward is squat, ugly, almost primitive. No turret, just a massive armored casemate and a gun barrel so thick it looks obscene. Su-152. The men who crew it don't call it that. Not yet. Tonight, it's just a prototype made real by desperation. A machine born from panic and steel shortages, rushed to the front with barely enough training to keep it from killing its own crew. Inside the fighting compartment, the air is already foul, cordite residue, hot oil, sweat soaking through padded tanker helmets. The commander peers through his optic, eyes burning, trying to separate rumor from reality. He has been told this gun can kill a tiger. He has also been told many things that turned out to be lies. The radio crackles, short commands, no speeches, no heroics. Target, forward, range 800. The loader wrestles the shell, 152 millimeters of steel and explosive. It weighs more than some men. It takes two of them to ram it home, muscles screaming as the round slides into the breach with a dull final clang. The Tiger head shifts. Its turret rotates slowly, confidently, as if it already knows the ending. The Soviet gunner exhales. Fire. The recoil is violent. The Su-152 doesn't so much shoot as detonate itself. The blast slams through the hull, rattling teeth, driving the vehicle backward despite its mass. Dust and smoke choke the compartment. For half a second, no one knows if the gun has exploded. Then someone shouts. The shell doesn't pierce the Tiger's armor the way textbooks promise. It does something worse. It hits the front plate and tears it open like rotten wood. Not a clean hole, a catastrophic rupture. Armor buckles inward, seams split, shockwaves rip through the hull. The Tiger's turret jerks, then lifts, just slightly, before slamming back down at an angle it was never meant to hold. Inside the German tank, men die without understanding how. Spalling turns the interior into a blender of white-hot metal fragments. Instruments shatter. The gun breech snaps. The crew never gets a chance to burn. Outside, the Tiger doesn't explode. It just stops. Its engine dies. Its engine dies. Smoke seeps from hatches that never open. For a moment, the battlefield freezes. Soviet infantry raise their heads. Tank commanders lean out of hatches, despite orders. Even the other Tigers hesitate, their advance faltering as if the night itself has changed its mind. You can almost feel it. The shift. Something fundamental breaking. For 2 years, the Tiger has been the final argument. When it arrived, Soviet attacks ended. Morale collapsed. Maps were redrawn around its presence. Entire offensives stalled because of a handful of these machines. And now one of them sits crippled in the dark, killed not by luck, not by air attack, but by a single brutal shot from a weapon no one feared yesterday. The Su-152 crew doesn't celebrate. There's no cheering, just stunned silence. The commander keeps his eye pressed to the optic, waiting for the counterfire that always comes. It doesn't. Instead, another Tiger reverses, slowly, deliberately, as if unsure of its own shadow. The radio erupts, confused German transmissions intercepted and half understood. Soviet officers shout for confirmation. Was it really destroyed, or merely damaged? Another shell is loaded. Slower now. More careful. The loader's hands shake. The gun swings again. This time the Tiger tries to move. Its engine roars. Tracks clawing at the earth. Too late. Fire. The second impact doesn't just stop the tank. It erases it. The blast snaps the Tiger's suspension. Shears road wheels clean off. Flips the vehicle onto its side like a child's toy. Flames bloom. Bright and unmistakable. Now the battlefield exhales. Men who have spent months retreating, dying, improvising, men who have been told again and again that German armor cannot be matched, stare at the wrecks and feel something dangerous rise in their chests. Hope, not victory, not yet, but the end of inevitability. And in that moment, as dawn begins to thin the darkness over Kursk, a terrible question spreads quietly through both armies. If the Tiger can be killed like this, what else is possible? The gun barrel is still smoking when the order comes to move. Tracks grind forward, slow and cautious, as if the Su-152 itself doesn't quite believe what it has just done. Around it, the battlefield begins to wake. Dawn creeps in reluctantly, a thin gray light revealing churned earth, broken infantry, and the unmistakable shapes of German armor that no longer look quite so immortal. The crew's ears ring, their throats burn. Nobody speaks. They don't need to. Every man inside the vehicle is replaying the same image, the Tiger's armor folding, the impossible made real. Radio traffic thickens. Soviet command wants proof, coordinates, confirmation. German frequencies, once clipped and confident, crackle with uncertainty. Words repeat. Unclear. Hit. Loss of contact. The Su-152 halts behind a shattered hedgerow. The commander finally allows himself to lift his head from the sight. His face is gray, smeared with oil and dust, eyes wide with something that borders on disbelief. They have trained for weeks to fear the Tiger. Now they must relearn everything. By mid-morning, the fighting around their sector intensifies. Kursk is not a single battle. It is thousands of violent collisions happening at once. Armor slamming into armor, men thrown into chaos, measured in meters gained and lost. But word travels fast at the front, faster than orders, faster than truth. A Tiger destroyed by assault gun. Some laugh it off. Others demand to see the wreck. They get their chance. Infantry advance past the burned-out hulls. Close now. The Tiger is smaller than expected. Still terrifying, but no longer mythical. The frontal plate is torn open, the edges curled inward like ripped fabric. Inside, the turret ring is warped beyond recognition. Blackened shapes that were once a crew remain frozen in place. A rifleman reaches out and touches the armor, half expecting it to bite him. It doesn't. That afternoon, German armor pushes again, but differently this time. Where Tigers once rolled forward with infantry clinging confidently to their sides, now they pause, reckon elements probe. Smoke screens go up earlier. Distances are kept longer. Fear has not vanished. It has shifted. The Su-152 crews are ordered to hold concealed positions. They are no longer blunt instruments to be thrown forward. They are hunters. Their gun is powerful but slow. Reload times stretch painfully long. If a Tiger spots them first, the outcome will be the same as always. So they wait. Camouflage netting is pulled tight. Engines shut down to reduce noise. Inside the hull, sweat beads in the heat. Time stretches. The loader checks the shell racks again and again, fingers tracing the cold metal of the rounds like a ritual. Then comes the sound. A deep, rhythmic clatter. Heavier than a Panzer IV, slower, confident. Another Tiger approaches. The commander's voice is calm now, almost cold. Hold. The German tank emerges from behind a rise, sunlight glinting off its angular plates. It halts briefly, turret scanning. You can almost imagine the German commander inside, experienced, decorated, certain that nothing on this front can challenge him head-on. The Su-152 does not fire immediately. They wait until the Tiger turns slightly, exposing its side, not because the gun needs it, but because the crew does, because they need certainty. Fire. The shell strikes low, smashing into the side armor with catastrophic force. The explosion lifts the Tiger's tracks off the ground. The turret doesn't just jam, it wrenches violently, the internal mounts snapping like bones. Flames erupt from the engine deck. This time, there is no pause. Soviet infantry cheer openly, men shout. Someone laughs hysterically. Officers try to restore order and fail. Across the field, German units pull back. Not a rout, but a reconsideration. The Tigers reposition, staying behind lighter armor. Their commanders begin requesting artillery suppression before advancing. Air support. Anything to deal with the unseen threat. That unseen threat spreads. By August, reports of heavy Soviet assault guns appear across the front. At Kursk, at Orel. Later, farther west, the Su-152 is given a name that sticks, Zivero Boy, Beast Slayer. The name isn't propaganda, it's survival. Yet even as confidence grows, reality intrudes. The Su-152 is not a miracle. Its ammunition supply is limited. Its reload is slow and punishing. Crews know that after each shot, they are exposed, counting seconds, praying the enemy misses.
Some don't survive that gap.
One Su-152 fires, disables a Tiger, and is destroyed moments later by return fire from another. The wreck burns just as fiercely. Victory is not clean. It never is. But something irreversible has happened. German tank crews begin to speak differently. The Tiger is no longer invincible. It is vulnerable. And vulnerability breeds caution. Caution slows advances. Slowness bleeds momentum. By the time the Red Army begins pushing west in earnest, the psychological equation has changed. The Tiger is still feared, but it is no longer a god, and gods, once wounded, never recover their power. In the months ahead, on new ground and in new darkness, Soviet crews will test that truth again, this time not in defense, but in pursuit. January 1945, 22:40 hours, outskirts of Opatów, occupied Poland. Snow muffles everything, footsteps vanish. Engines sound distant, distorted, as if the night itself is trying to hide what's coming. Frost clings to steel, turning tanks into moving blocks of ice. The war has traveled far from Kursk, but it has not become any kinder. The Su-152 waits again. This one is scarred now. Weld seams show hurried repairs. Paint is chipped to bare metal. The crew inside is different too. Older, quieter, veterans. They no longer talk about invincibility. They talk about angles, distances, reload times.
About who dies first. Across the frozen field, German armor forms up for a counterattack. Not many. Germany no longer has many of anything, but among them is a Tiger II, larger, heavier, supposedly improved. Its presence still tightens throats. You can feel the old fear trying to return. The Soviet commander watches through his sight, breath fogging the optics. The Tiger II moves like a fortress on tracks, its armor sloped and massive, its gun capable of killing from beyond visual range. On paper, it should dominate this fight. But paper doesn't remember Kursk. The Su-152 crew has one job tonight. Stop that tank before it reaches the road junction behind them. If it breaks through, infantry will be crushed, supply lines severed. There will be no second chance. The range is long. Too long. They wait anyway. The Tiger II fires first. Its 88mm shell screams overhead and detonates behind the Soviet position, showering the Su-152 with frozen dirt and debris. The hull rocks. Inside, someone swears softly. The commander doesn't flinch. Closer, he murmurs. Not into the radio. To himself. The German tank advances, confident in its armor, confident in distance. Another shot. This one lands closer. The concussion rattles the Su-152's gun mount. Snow pours through tiny gaps in the armor. The loader braces the shell, muscles tense. He knows this may be the only round they get off. At 600 meters, the commander raises his hand. Fire.
The 152mm shell slams into the Tiger II's frontal armor. It does not penetrate cleanly. It doesn't need to. The impact sends a shockwave through the hull so violent that welds crack. The mantle fractures. The turret ring deforms just enough. Enough. The Tiger II tries to return fire. The turret moves and stops. Another shell from a supporting Soviet gun strikes the immobilized tank. Then another. Flames bloom from the rear deck. The giant grinds to a halt, useless, blind, trapped inside its own mass. The Su-152 crew watches in silence as the once feared monster burns. No cheering now, just confirmation. This is how it ends. Across Poland, across East Prussia, across the collapsing front, the pattern repeats. Tigers still kill, still terrify. But they are hunted now, targeted, studied, broken by weapons and crews who no longer believe in their myth. The Su-152 will not be the future. Faster tanks, better guns, more refined machines are already coming, but its role is already secured. Not as a perfect weapon, but as the one that shattered certainty. The moment when Soviet crews stopped whispering the Tiger's name. The moment German crews realized that armor alone could not save them. Steel had met steel, and cracked. And once that sound was heard, it could never be forgotten. The wreck is still warm when the engineers arrive. Steam rises from twisted armor plates, mixing with exhaust fumes and drifting snow. Soviet sapper officers circle the dead Tiger II carefully, notebooks out, fingers tracing cracks that shouldn't exist. They photograph everything, measure everything. Because this failure matters. Inside the burned hull, the story is written in steel. The shell didn't need to punch through. It only needed to shake the machine hard enough to make its own strength betray it. Weld seams split, bearings warped. Precision German engineering undone by raw force. The engineers exchange looks. This isn't luck. This is physics. And physics does not care about reputations. By now, German crews know it too. Interrogations of captured tankers reveal a subtle change in language. Tigers are no longer described as unstoppable. Instead, words like vulnerable, immobilized, and artillery magnets appear. Crews complain about being singled out. About Soviet gunners ignoring lighter vehicles just to wait for the Tiger. Once, the Tiger dictated the battlefield. Now it attracts it. German doctrine struggles to adapt. The Tiger was designed to dominate at range, to crush opposition through superior optics and firepower. But the Eastern Front has become too crowded, too close, too chaotic. Forests, villages, snowstorms, ambush distances shrink. Heavy assault guns lurk behind rubble and tree lines. Every advance now feels like stepping into a trap. Reports from late 1944 describe Tiger crews refusing to move without infantry screens far ahead. Others demand reconnaissance that no longer exists. Fuel shortages ground entire units. Spare parts vanish. Even a minor hit can immobilize a machine too heavy to recover under fire. The Tiger's greatest strength, its mass, has become its curse. Meanwhile, Soviet morale hardens into something sharper than hope. Su-152 crews are rotated, retrained, their tactics refined. They learn not to duel, but to strike, not to prove superiority, but to end fights quickly. One shot, then relocation. Survival depends on discipline more than bravery. The crews begin to trust their weapon, not as a miracle, but as a tool that finally listens, and trust changes behavior. Soviet tank commanders push more aggressively. Infantry advance closer to armor.
Coordination improves because fear no longer paralyzes decision-making. When a Tiger appears, men don't freeze, they mark it, they wait, they kill it. German command notices the shift too late. Production numbers cannot replace psychology. Every Tiger destroyed now does more than remove a vehicle. It erodes belief. And belief, once cracked, spreads failure faster than any shell. At night, German crews sit inside their tanks and listen. Every dist would be slag. At none made cranking.
Every shadow could hide a gun big enough to end them without warning. The monster has learned fear, and fear is corrosive. By early 1945, Tigers are no longer deployed as spearheads. They are defensive assets, dug in, used like pillboxes, static, predictable. Exactly the kind of targets heavy assault guns were meant to destroy. The war machine that once rewrote battles now reacts to them. But the final realization comes quietly, not in fire, but in silence. A Soviet commander standing over another shattered Tiger hull remarks to his aide that the Germans never fixed the real problem. They kept building stronger armor, bigger guns, heavier machines. They never fixed the myth. Because myths, once broken, cannot be welded back together. And on the Eastern Front, broken myths die quickly. The road west is littered with giants. Burned-out tigers slump beside frozen ditches. Some are half-buried, abandoned when fuel ran out. Others sit intact but silent. Machines left behind because no one believed they were worth dying inside anymore. Snow drifts over their tracks, softening their outlines, as if history itself is trying to erase their menace. Soviet columns pass them without slowing. A year ago, those same hulks would have halted an entire advance. Now they are landmarks, reference points. Turn left at the dead tiger, regroup beyond the burned one. The psychological shift is complete. Inside an Su-152 rolling forward with the Red Army, the crew barely glances at the wrecks. Their attention is forward, always forward. The war has taught them a brutal economy of emotion. All wastes time. Time gets you killed. Yet at night, when engines are cut and the cold creeps back in, memories surface. The loader remembers Kursk. The first time his hands shook so badly, he could barely seat the shell. The first tiger he saw up close, intact, alive, invulnerable. He remembers thinking the war might end right there, in front of that gun barrel. Now he knows better. Across the front, German units are collapsing, not just from pressure, but from exhaustion of spirit. The tiger was meant to be reassurance, a symbol that no matter how bad things became, German engineering would restore order. When that symbol failed, there was nothing behind it. Panther crews feel it. Panzer IV crews feel it. Infantry feel it most of all. When the heaviest tank can be broken, what protection does a trench offer? What promise does command still hold? German after-action reports from the final months read like autopsies. They speak of overwhelming enemy firepower, of unfavorable terrain, of lack of air superiority. All true, none complete. What they don't say, what they can't say, is that the war stopped making sense. Because sense requires faith in cause and effect, in rules, in superiority. The Su-152 did not win the war. Not by itself, but it did something arguably more important. It taught Soviet soldiers that the rules imposed on them were false. And once soldiers stop believing the rules, they start rewriting them. By April 1945, the Su-152's presence is almost incidental. Newer machines take the lead, faster guns, better armor, improved coordination. The Red Army has evolved into something relentless. Yet when Tiger wrecks appear in Berlin's outskirts, Soviet troops still point them out, still pause for half a second, not in fear, in recognition. This was the enemy that once defined the boundary of possibility, and it fell. The Su-152 crews know their chapter is closing. Their machines are worn out, barrels near the end of their service lives. Some vehicles will never fire another round, others will be scrapped without ceremony. There will be no monuments for them, no grand parades, but there is a quiet pride that runs deeper than celebration. They were there when certainty died. They were there when the night answered back. And as the guns move closer to the heart of Germany, one final truth settles in, uncomfortable, undeniable, irreversible. The tiger was never invincible. It was only believed to be. Berlin is burning, the 30th of April, 1945, early evening. The air tastes like brick dust and cordite. Buildings collapse in slow, thunderous sighs. Somewhere nearby, a machine gun chatters briefly, then stops. The city no longer fights like an army. It fights like a cornered animal. An Su-152 sits at the mouth of a shattered boulevard, its hull streaked with soot, its gun elevated slightly, waiting. It has not fired in hours. There are no tigers left here, no armored duels, only rubble, desperation, and the last echoes of a myth that once shaped the war. The crew listens, not for engines, for silence, because silence now means something different. Once, silence before an advance meant tigers were coming, massive shapes emerging from smoke, rewriting plans with every shot. Now silence means they are gone. Either destroyed, abandoned, or never built in the first place. A Soviet officer walks past the assault gun and pauses, resting a hand briefly on its armor. He doesn't look at the crew. He doesn't need to. This machine has already done what it was meant to do. It proved a point. The Tiger did not fall because it was poorly designed. It fell because war does not reward perfection. It rewards adaptation. And when the Red Army adapted, the Tiger's legend became a liability. Too heavy to retreat, too rare to replace, too feared to be ignored. The Su-152 never pretended to be elegant. It was loud, crude, violent. It did not duel, it smashed. And in smashing the Tiger, it smashed the idea that any machine could dominate the battlefield alone. After the war, historians will debate calibers and armor thickness. They will argue penetration tables and production numbers. But tank crews, those who lived inside steel, will remember something simpler. They will remember the night the monster stopped being a monster. The night a single shot changed how an entire army thought. Long after the Su-152s are melted down, long after Tigers sit rusting in museums, that moment will still matter. Because wars are not decided only by factories or generals, but by belief, and belief, once broken, never comes back the same.
The Tiger learned that in the dark.